This is Boxes and Briefs, a podcast with real-life business stories. But we will be asking the hard questions and challenging traditions. So broaden your thinking with fresh perspectives and solve problems for business success. Welcome to another episode of Boxes and Briefs. My name's Lisa.
I'm Lucy.
And today we have with us another Lisa, Lisa East.
Hello.
Hello. Now, Lisa is the founder and managing director of Matter, which is a digital marketing agency that's been helping New Zealand businesses forge genuine connections with their audiences since 2011. She's driven by a passion for making the digital world more positive, useful, and beautiful. Great bunch of words. They've assisted dozens of clients in growing their online influence and achieving measurable results. So you're not throwing money into the big wide world of cyberspace.
That's the goal.
All right, so tell us about the Matter story. Why do you do what you do?
It's a great question, and I was thinking about that all last night because it's so hard. Sometimes we think, I just do what I do because, I like doing it on a day-to-day. For me, what it comes back to is I love telling or helping people tell stories that mean something, but what I really love is connecting people. And I think the internet, for all of its terrible bits, is also the ultimate great connector, and I think there's so much opportunity for people to connect and enrich each other's lives. And I think obviously we've got a marketing overlay to that because we're helping brands to do that with their customers. But to me, the most fulfilling thing is when we can help brands and customers come together and create really meaningful and engaged communities where everyone wins.
Everyone gets something. There's a little magic thing that happens, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
it's a tangible, you can feel it but you can't see it thing that happens.
And it's just magic when it does.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so we're talking about social media.
We are.
And we've got a lot of business type people who are listening.
Yes.
How do they know which social media channel is best for their business?
It's a great question. It's one we get all the time.
Yeah.
And what we say to people is, forget your business. Think about your customer. Where are they? You could be a firm of accountants, but if all of your clients are Instagram influencers, then they might not be seeing you if you're solely on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I do get that answer, but I would say in the example of an accounting firm that there's going to be different clients on all different channels. So therefore, should you be on everything?
I think, again, it comes back to, who are your clients? Who are you aiming to do business with, right? If you're aiming to do business with, for example, other founders that will be on LinkedIn, building their businesses and they're growing their networks there, then absolutely yes. And there are other reasons. For example, a lot of brands, some of our clients have a really strong following on LinkedIn for employer branding purposes, right? So they're trying to
attract talent.
Absolutely. So that's another good reason. So I think what it comes back to is understanding what are the fundamental objectives that you're trying to meet as a business, trying to deliver on, and how can social underpin that.
Is there a situation then when you go, okay, I'm going to be on LinkedIn to attract talent. I'm going to be on Facebook because we want to attract, let's say, mum and dad property investor type people.
Yep.
And then we want to be on Instagram because we want to make sure we're reaching the younger generation. We might as well do Pinterest and TikTok because if we're creating content for those channels, shouldn't we just be on all of them?
A lot of brands do. I think, it comes back to how well can you resource that. You could have, be popping things up on TikTok continuously, but if you haven't got the resource to be able to manage that channel and grow a community there, you're thinking back to we had a client that came to us and they wanted to grow a new segment within their retail strategy, so a younger audience. Instagram was an obvious channel for that, right?
Yeah.
They already had a very established Facebook following, but that following was older and they had different interests. We needed to do something new and fresh. TikTok wasn't really around at this point. It was a few years ago. So, we said to them, look, you need a different approach for Instagram. What you're doing on Facebook is not going to fly with that audience on this channel.
Yeah.
So I guess the point is they had to put quite a lot of effort into doing that well.
Yes.
So if you're going to add additional channels, then you've got to be prepared if you want them to do serious work for your brand to resource them well.
So am I hearing a strategy then that you've got to pick the one where most of your customers are, or the customers you want, pick that one, do it well, and then if you have another strategy, it might be another channel.
Correct. Supplement. Absolutely.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we recommend.
Okay, you said something profound to me the other day. You said businesses
I'm shocked.
businesses don't own their social media
Yes.
following.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. No, you don't.
Yeah. It's interesting,
It's
right?
people's choice. I get that. But then you said, what happens if you get hacked?
What happens if I was listening to a marketing podcast, because that's what I do in my downtime,
Yep.
the other week, and there was a woman on there who was talking about she had grown a business. It was I think she was selling something like, it was a bit gross, diet plans, but she'd managed to get 500,000 followers. She'd built a business off Instagram, right? She had this huge following. They were running their ads off Instagram.
Yep.
That was the foundation of the business. And then all of a sudden one day that was all gone. I can't remember if she got hacked or if she fell afoul of Instagram somehow and couldn't access it anyway.
Right.
She couldn't access that following anymore. All of her customers were gone. She didn't have a database. She couldn't go out to them any other way. So what do you do then, right? So that's why we say to people, yes, absolutely, you can build a following in a community, but it needs to be strong enough that those people will follow you wherever you go, and you need to try and actively bring them into an asset that you
Own.
control.
A
right?
database.
Absolutely.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
It does make sense. Because I know that there are some businesses who will value their business based on how many followers or who they can reach, like influencers.
So that's another interesting one, influencers.
Ooh, do tell me.
So we work with influencers from time to time. That space has changed rapidly and drastically over the last few years. And gone are the days where, from a social media agency perspective, gone are the days where we could just reach out to whoever's hot in the minute and do a bit of a deal with them for our brand clients. It's fundamentally changed. It's a very professional game now, which is good in many regards. I think still, though, that there are some misunderstandings about what represents good value with influencers, with using influencers. So a lot of people will look at reach. I don't know, Kanye West has however many followings.
Yeah.
Is he the right fit for your brand? That's an obvious question. I guess the next question that people should be asking of the influencers, who's in your audience?
Yeah.
Does that align with my audience? And what rates of engagement are you actually getting? So there are influencers out there with huge followings, but very low engagement. And what that tells us is that people aren't necessarily valuing their content enough to engage with it. And that means that as a brand, if you're paying for your content to be in that influencer's channel, I don't know, are people actually responding from their audience?
Yeah. Am I hearing
Right.
an overall thought in there that it's not the follows that matters, it's the engagement
Engagement
for any
is
business?
vital. Yeah, really important. And I think, the other trend that we're seeing with influencers, people, and this was quite a big topic last year and the year before, actually, people were looking at going with niche influencers and micro influencers. So it's really swung back from having those, mass, I'll pay lots of money to get lots of eyeballs, to going, well, actually, I don't need all the eyeballs. I just need lots of the specific set or type of eyeballs.
Yes.
So people...
Because there's rules as well now around sponsorship. You have to say
Absolutely.
if you've been paid to
Yeah.
talk about the product.
Yeah,
Transparency.
absolutely. And here's an interesting one. I'm very passionate about this. The AI influencers.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
That's interesting. There's the Spanish one, what's her name? I think it's Aitana. And what I thought was really interesting is, aside from the fact that she's been created by a man, she looks a certain way and she endorses a certain set of products. You've got her doing things like modelling clothes, which theoretically is potentially a representation of what those clothes might look like on a body. I saw an endorsement where it was for a hair care product, and the AI influencer was saying, oh, my hair looks and feels so amazing having used this product. Now, that's not real. There is
No.
no way in the world that
Aren't
that
we
is
in
real.
a day and age of authenticity?
Absolutely. So it flies in the face of that.
Is it working?
Yeah, how was that received?
Well, I mean, I think that comes back to there will be a certain set of people who are less aware that these influencers are complete. You know, they have a lower filter for the BS.
Okay.
That's what, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think with that in mind, it's really dangerous because you're going to have potentially young people
Yeah.
or people that aren't as tuned into the level of marketing BS that's going on with these influencers that are affected by it and going, oh, okay, well, you know, that product might make my hair look. It's not. It won't. It never
Well,
will.
it might.
That's crazy.
It might.
It might,
But there's no proof.
but there's no proof, right? So to your
Aye,
point about
aye.
authenticity, you
Yeah.
know, that's where we come back to time and again. And I
Yep.
think that is the foundation for strong and engaged relationships. You know, having those authentic interactions and having the respect for your audience to actually give them quality content that
Yeah.
isn't trying to pull the wool over their eyes or
Yeah.
isn't vanity metrics.
Okay, so you talked about, and we talked about in your intro, about measurable results.
Yes.
So it's not enough anymore just to do organic posting, hope for the best. I think we kind of call that pray and spray.
Spray and
and,
spray, yes.
spray and pray.
Yep,
Almost
yep,
had it.
yep.
You talk about measuring
Yep.
the return on investment.
Absolutely.
So that's like spend $1, get $2 back.
Yep.
How do you measure that?
Yeah, so it depends very much on what you're trying to achieve. It depends on what you're selling. So I could sell $1 million apartment through a social media ad and track that back and go, that lead came from social. The return on investment on
It's gonna
my
be huge.
it's going to be ridiculous, right?
Yes.
Or I could spend money on, I don't know, selling a dress or a lipstick, or, you know, it's going to be a bit different. So I think understanding fundamentally what you're trying to achieve and what social media could potentially do for you,
Yeah.
really important. There's no one, but it's what I'm trying to say is that there's no one set of metrics
Yeah.
that fits everyone. It's just not true because you have to customize it to what the business is trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Having said that, I think that there are fundamental things that you'll always want to look at. So, for example, if you're building a community, you want to look at engagement. Social sentiment. What are people saying about you online? What do they think of your brand? And then, coming back to return on investment, I think dollar figures. You're going to start on day one and go, look, here's our hypothesis about what we think this is going to bring us. If day 100 looks like day one and you haven't done any better, there's probably a problem.
Yeah. It's
So for
just
us,
a
it's
strategy
about-
that doesn't work.
Exactly. Well, you're not optimizing your strategy. So what we're looking at is day one, there will be things that we haven't learnt about this campaign, about this audience, about this
Okay.
product and how it sells and goes online. So we're looking at every week, every day,
Yeah.
optimizing these campaigns to go, how can we get it to go a little bit better? It's that 1% better every day, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I say day 100 results probably going to look a little different to day one. So I think it's about understanding fundamentally what your business is trying to achieve, putting some measures in place
Yeah.
that reflect that,
Yeah.
and then working really hard consistently
Yeah.
to try and better your results.
Because it is a risk. Like
It is.
I've come from a world of what they used to call website cowboys, and now I know that there's a website called No Cowboys, so that
Yep.
you don't hire a bad tradesperson.
I think we need one for digital marketing.
I think we do too,
Yeah.
because there is no promise for return on investment. There's hardly ever will anybody offer a guarantee that if you
Yep.
spend this, we will make you this.
Yep.
I do know that there's companies out there who will say, well, I will help you try and make this, and if you make this, then you can pay me a percentage of it.
Yep.
How should a business owner approach how much they invest and what kind of research should they do so that they don't find a digital marketing cowboy?
Oh, it's a tricky one because there are so many out there, right? I
Yeah.
think talking to people, New Zealand, particularly in New Zealand, we're a small market.
Yep.
Reach out to your networks, reach out to the people who you can see are doing it well, and talk to them about who they're using.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say the firms that purely compete on metrics, on numbers, to my mind, if you're a digital marketing agency
Yeah.
and you can't compete on metrics, you shouldn't be a digital marketing agency. Like, we
Right.
should all be getting the numbers, right? It's a matter of...
If you know what you're doing.
If you know what you're doing.
Okay, so the proof is in the numbers.
The proof is in the numbers, and also in I think the approach and it's not just in the numbers, it's where it got the business to from day 1 to day 30 to day 150. Where have you moved the dial? What's changed in your business?
Okay.
And to the question around, dollar investment, that's a really hard one. We could say, do you want to be number 1 in a highly competitive category?
Yeah.
Sure, you're going to have to spend tons,
It's
right?
the same as
Yeah.
Google Ads, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got to pick your niche, pick your strategy, tie it back to the business result that you want to achieve.
Yep. And then, of course, it's not just getting the ad in front of your people, like we've just been saying. It's about getting them to do something with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like,
Getting them
comment.
to engage.
Yeah, we talk a lot in our ad campaigns about running a marketing funnel on social media. So looking at, having really engaging content at the top of your funnel, then pushing people down into a consideration phase, so serving them different content that gets them to consider what they've seen, and then, only then, trying to close the deal with some conversion marketing through social.
Okay.
Yeah, and that,
Very strategic, isn't it? There's more to it than just
Sometimes.
sticking on some viral video and hoping for the best.
Well, and sometimes that just works, right?
Yeah.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.
Tell us all the juicy stories, the stuff where you've learned lessons or business owners have dipped their toe in the pool and it's gone badly. How can we help our listeners not make the same mistakes? What are the stories?
Oh, so there are two kind of key things that spring to mind. The first one is I keep saying have a plan, tie it back to the business objective. The biggest mistake we see people making with social is what you were talking about. What was it? Spray and pray. Spray and pray. I think that's such a great way of putting it, because people just put stuff out there and it takes time and effort to do that. So don't kid yourself into thinking there's no cost and just having a go, right? Because your team could be doing something else more valuable if there's no strategy behind it. So I think, for brands who have, you'll have your business strategy, you probably have a marketing plan or some marketing objectives. Make sure that whatever you're doing on social media ties back to that.
Okay.
It's really important. And that you've got some key measures identified. The other thing I was going to talk about was scams and hacks. Ooh,
It's so hard. In my experience, I found that Meta is quite difficult to get help from.
Yeah. Absolutely. For the average business owner, absolutely. So we had a client come to us years ago, and they were with another agency, and it had gone. They had decided to move agency. In the process, had uncovered that their meta channels were not secure. The channels then fell into the hands of someone else, and they were effectively locked out. It took us months.
And is that because they had such a huge following, it wasn't worth just starting again?
They had a highly engaged following that it wasn't in the tens of thousands, but it was enough and they'd put enough effort into building that it was important for them to retain it.
Okay.
Also for the businesses, I guess, they didn't want to say, hey, we've been hacked and it's gone.
True.
But they had a really valuable asset, right? That it was then in the control of someone else. And it took us a really long time. We got it back, but it cost them a lot of money and our time to help them do that. And that's not always the case, that we can help people get things back.
Yeah.
And that was 3 or 4 years ago now. It's exponentially harder to do these days.
Yeah.
So, we're paranoid, particularly with the meta channels. I think, make sure everything, you've got your, double authentication. I actually have a security key, a physical security key, that sits on my laptop, and I need to use that to log into my business manager because I am so paranoid.
Yeah.
Because particularly as an agency, we have other people's assets, right?
Yeah.
Linked to our... So I think the paranoia has led to, some real safeguards that help me sleep at night.
Yeah.
So I think just being really careful. We've had, there is another brand, this is a classic. They, quite a well-known brand, got a social media manager, very junior person in. That person linked in to the company account with their Instagram, or logged in with their Instagram. They got hacked. The company account got taken over. Yeah, and this was a significant brand. Again, it took them a long time to get that asset back. So to me, that's the number one thing.
Make sure it's secure, set up properly.
Yeah, don't give random access to random people. If you've got agencies joining, add them to your Meta Business business suite as an agency. Don't give them admin permissions. We see that a lot because I think people don't understand how to set things up correctly.
Yep.
Even potentially at this, agency level, if you've got contractors coming in, that's really dangerous.
So I think you provide a service too called Social Sidekick,
We
right?
do,
That helps
yeah.
people with social media, different ranges of packages and things. But I remember you've said explicitly, we don't help with hacks.
Can't do it.
It's so hard.
It's a business opportunity for someone, but not for me.
Yeah.
Just because it is hard and time consuming. I think if we do enough of it, Meta won't thank us because we're constantly harassing their
They
people.
might block you.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and there's no guaranteed result, right? You might pay all this money and not get your asset back.
Yeah.
So I think we're huge advocates of lock it down at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we had a guest 2 episodes ago who has done amazing businesses all set up with just a Shopify and social media. And she's turned them into multi-million-dollar businesses.
Amazing.
So it may be not as easy as it sounds if you don't set them up correctly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is there a guide? Can you Google it? How to set up social securely?
Absolutely. There are
Okay.
many guides. And actually, I would say the social media platforms themselves have great guides. Meta has a lot of information on their website. We actually also, on our website, on the Meta agency website, we have some guides on there too.
Okay.
And,
so actually just put the time in and set it up.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Shouldn't even take, an hour to do it.
Yeah.
And making sure that your team's done it too. And that is, we can't help if you have been hacked, but if you're wanting to set your stuff up correctly in the first place, we're very happy to help with that. Yep.
Perfect. Love that. Okay. So what future trends are coming? We've there's influencers, there's AI stuff. What do you see happening?
We have already talked about these AI influencers, which I think is a real problem. Sorry, I think authenticity will continue to reign supreme.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't want highly polished experiences. I don't know. For me, in my personal life, TikTok is my social channel of choice. I love it.
Yep.
As soon as I see anything that is remotely polished, as in a TVC that some brands decided to just stick on TikTok, I don't just swipe, I get annoyed. I get frustrated. So there are brands that are doing a really great job of moving their, extending their TVC campaigns or their into a different approach on social. That's fantastic.
Yes.
All over that. But don't just stick. It drives me wild. It's probably my biggest social media app. So that's one. Flying in the face of authenticity, something that I think is really scary is that blurring of the lines between what's real and what's not. And I think,
How do you mean? Give me an example.
I'll give you a very basic example.
Okay.
I'm mother of 2 young boys. One of my boys very excitedly called me over to the iPad and said, "Hey, Mum, guess what? You said unicorns weren't real, but here's one. I can see it on YouTube." And bless him, there's like a badly photoshopped. and I mean, that's a pretty innocent example, but I think the level of sophistication that we're seeing come through in terms of the filters and the AI, I did a little silly little TikTok the other week just around, filters are fun. They're a lot of fun, but they're not real. And, you look at, scrolling through TikTok, it's sometimes really hard to tell that people don't, that they are using a filter, and that's kind of terrifying to me.
This is a repetition of something that's already happened. So when I started in marketing, we used to Photoshop the models in bodysuits to make sure that they looked like something
Yeah.
you wanted to be,
Yeah.
therefore you would purchase it.
Correct. Yeah.
So whilst we've engaged in being authentic and wanting to see real, now we're moving to it's a repeat. We can't
Yep.
tell what's real.
Yeah.
We don't realise that it's a filter or
And
Photoshop
sometimes it's
or
so
AI.
subliminal
Yeah.
that it's really difficult to tell. And if you're thinking about young women growing up with,
Yeah.
we probably grew up in the age of the supermodel, and that's
Yes.
affected a lot of women really negatively
Yep.
in terms of body image. Now you're thinking about the next generation of young women growing up with these
It's not
filters.
just body image
Yeah,
anymore,
like
it's
perfect
everything.
skin, but it's
Yeah.
not real.
It's really scary. So I mean that's slightly terrifies me, but who knows? I want to see
Yes.
what I would love to see. I want to see a social media channel that's all about ASMR. So like,
I think there's some channels out there.
Yeah,
on
I want a
TikTok
big one.
Live.
Yeah, I wanted to just I love it.
Courtney Kardashian does a whole lot of that stuff with her brand.
A lot of them do. Yeah. So I think definitely, if going back to the filters in AI and virtual VR, I think, if you're looking at an e-commerce brand, being able to, try things on virtually or, and there's some amazing stuff you can do, I guess, in terms of inclusivity, in terms of different body sizes and shapes and everything, being able to harness that technology for good.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
So, there's hope. There's hope on the
There's
horizon
hope.
as well.
It's scary, but there's hope.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and actually, sorry, to that point, I would say there are some amazing influencers out there doing, do either of you follow Danae Mercer on
No.
Instagram?
No,
So
tell
she's
me.
like the antithesis of the AI influencer. She's a model,
Yep.
Okay.
beautiful woman, but all of her content is about this is what I look like in a photo shoot.
Ah.
And then she'll turn to the
I've
side,
heard of her.
and she'll show you
Yes.
how she's posed to get that look
Nice.
and what she really looks like.
Yep.
And I think that, you've got people on the other side of the coin who are doing stuff like that,
Yeah.
who is they are just so important, and they're doing God's work in the social space because that's what
cool.
we need more of,
So,
right?
yeah. I mean, we're in the content game,
Yeah.
and more people are recognizing AI written
Yes.
content in their posts and
Yep.
things on social media. People recognize it, and they have the same reaction you described before with, "Oh, that's inauthentic.
Yeah.
I don't want to engage
No one
with
spent
that."
time on that to really make it valuable
to think
me.
about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to move more and more to authenticity.
I agree.
Yeah.
Storytelling,
Yep.
the real stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so regarding social media for businesses, biggest tips?
Have a strategy, lock your social channels down. It's all the boring stuff you need to do.
All the boring stuff.
Yeah. Invest in great content. I think, be clear about who you are and where you stand. There's no point running completely with the herd. No one will ever notice you. Try and do a few things differently. Have your own, view and voice on social. That's really important.
Love that. All right, so if our listeners want to get in touch with you for any reason,
Well, for any reason except for scams,
true.
they are very welcome to find me on LinkedIn. I'm Lisa East. Pretty easy to find on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was
Great,
fun.
valuable content.
Oh, it was so fun. Thank you.
Awesome.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.